What is up, everybody? It is what is it anyway? Okay, it's Sunday. It is Sunday. It is December 30th. It is 11:06 a.m. Yes, I was a little bit late out the gates today. Just got my thumbnail image up there and all that sorts of stuff, so a little bit behind schedule here. But I did want to get this thing started at 11 a.m. Why? Because I am a busy beaver, because as soon as I'm done with this episode, I've really got to start banging away on Game of the Year stuff. Yeah, our episode tomorrow at 10 a.m. is kind of a big deal. Kind of a big deal. Now, it's not really a big deal. It's not really a big deal. It's not going to be, like, I'm not going to be wearing a tux. You know, it's not that big of a deal. But it is our Game of the Year awards deal. And it's probably going to be like a 2-hour show. And I got to get all this stuff set up. I got to be ready to go tomorrow so that I'm ready for the show. And it's going to be a lot of little work on my part in terms of getting everything ready. And I want to get that started. But I still got to do today's show before I can do that. So that's what we're here for. This is, I believe, episode 54. And the title for today's show is, Hey, HTC, what's your deal, bruh? I mean, that's pretty much what it is. Do you guys remember there was a famous quote? I think it was Coach Pete Carroll of, I believe he was the USC coach, and Jim Harbaugh was the coach of the Stanford Cardinal. And they were playing a football game, a college football game. It was USC against Stanford. And Jim Harbaugh was the coach of Stanford, and he just kept running up the score. They just kept scoring touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. The game was long over with. Like, there was no need for them to do that. And then after the game was over, the coaches walk across the field. They shake each other's hands. And Pete Carroll was like, what's your deal, bro? What is your deal? And it kind of became a famous statement. What is your deal? And that's kind of what we're talking about here with HTC. What is going on? So for the last couple of days, we've covered we're covering the three major individual VR platforms. On Friday, we did PlayStation VR. Yesterday, we did Oculus. And today, we are doing HTC. And these are kind of the three major platforms that are out there. So we're going to go ahead and do HTC today. And then obviously tomorrow is our Game of the Year awards. So before we get started with HTC, one more reminder. Let me go ahead and pop it on the screen one more time, because this is the last day. If you guys want to get a vote in for our People's Choice Awards, we're going to have my awards and we're going to have your awards, the People's Choice Awards. If you want to get your vote in, today is the last day. And you know what? I'm going to cut it off at midnight Eastern time. So that's 9 p.m. Pacific or midnight Eastern time tonight. That is the deadline to get your votes in for Game of the Year awards. We do have a lot of people that have voted, and it's an awesome thing. We've had some people that have given us, they've ranked all 25 of these games. We've had a couple people that have done that. We've had a couple people that have ranked 20 of them, or 15 or 10 or something like that. We've had some other people that have just ranked like 5, 6, or 7, but it's all good. Any votes that you can possibly contribute, it's an awesome thing, because the more votes we get, the better representation it will be. The better our People's Choice Awards will be. So I'm looking forward to that, because tonight at 9 p.m. Pacific time, I've got to run all the calculations. You know, we're using a point-based system. So if you ranked a game number 1 and you rank all 25, well, the number 1 game is going to get a hell of a lot more points than the number 25 game. I didn't quite do it like 25 points, 24 points, 20. I didn't quite do it like that. We have a little bit of a different breakdown where the top 6 have a heavier weighting, and then after that it goes to half points. So basically, like, the number 1 game gets 15 points, the number 25 game gets a half of a point, and we kind of break it down that way. But the more people that turn in a vote, the better our People's Choice Awards are going to be. So get your votes in. How do you do it? How do you get your vote in? All you got to do is go to our Discord server. There is an invite in the show description. Sign up for Discord. It's not that much of a deal. I kind of avoided Discord for a while. You know, all the young kids are like, Discord, man. That's what's going on. It's all about Discord, bruh. And I kind of avoided it for a while. I signed up to Discord like a long time ago. Used it for a little while. Got annoyed by all the freaking bleeps and bloops that were going on. Stopped using it. But then Phil Yarn, it's all Phil Yarn's fault. Is Phil Yarn in chat? Let me pop my chat out. It's all Phil Yarn's fault. He kept talking about, when you going to have a Discord? When you going to have a Discord server? So I finally dealt with it. Finally had the Discord server. And now I'm kind of wondering why I didn't have one all along. It probably would have been a good idea to have a Discord server all this time. But now we have one, and it's a pretty cool community. A lot of us are over there. We talk about different things. We've got off topic. We got a VR casual discussion. We've got like all different kinds of ranking categories. We've got a lot of stuff going on over there. So check out our Discord. It's the way to do it. Okay, so let's see what else. Okay, so yeah, we're doing this HTC Vive show. Yeah, that is what is on the docket today. So let me go ahead and let's just get it going. Now, I don't think the HTC Vive discussion is going to last as long as like our Oculus Rift discussion did, or I don't think it's going to last as long as like the PlayStation VR discussion, but it still is worthy of discussion. So let's kind of go over it. Let's check it out. Let's see what it's all about. So we're going to go ahead and start this off with what has HTC / Valve done right. And when I'm talking about Valve here, I'm really talking about HTC, but a lot of what HTC has done, a lot of it has been tied very closely. It has been intertwined with Valve. So, you know, Valve is a part of this, but we're not really getting into Valve. This is all about HTC for the most part, but they are intertwined when it comes to VR. Okay, so number one, what have they done right? They have delivered the best tracking in the industry. Bar none, period. HTC Vive has the best tracking in the consumer VR gaming industry. You have 2 lighthouse stations. You put them in opposite corners of your room. I used to have a lighthouse right there. In fact, I still have my bracket. It is still up there. And I have a bracket that is over there. You can't see it because it's black and it's hooked up to a black thing. But it is over there. I have a bracket set up there and a bracket set up there. 2 lighthouses. You don't need to have all these goddamn sensors all over the place. 2 lighthouses. It does the job well. The other beautiful thing about the lighthouse sensors, you don't have to run a cable to your PC. How awesome is that? Oculus, learn from this. PlayStation, learn from this. You don't need to run a wire back to your console or back to your PC. That's the way to do it. This is the way forward, ladies and gentlemen. Copy Valve. Figure out what they're doing and copy it or license it from them. They do have the best tracking in the industry. Now, I have talked a number of times about, I wish there was a battery pack in there. I think it would be super cool if there was some kind of battery pack that would last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and when you buy your lighthouse, it comes with 2 battery packs. So you could have one charged, ready to go. So whenever your battery pack runs out, okay, so every 3 weeks, you hit a little button, it pops the cartridge out, you slap the other one in. There's no wires even going to your outlet plug. I think that would be super sweet. Maybe in the future, maybe Lighthouse number 3. But they do have the best tracking that is out there. No question about it. Okay, number 2. They delivered a motion controller on day 1. We forget about this. They delivered their motion controller on day 1. Do you guys remember way back March 28th, 2016, whenever the Oculus Rift first came out? There was no motion controller for basically a year. There was no motion controller. How weird was that? Like, I don't even remember those days. Of course, I didn't have a Rift back then. I wasn't very tempted to get a Rift back then. I was a HTC Vive guy. You can't really see, you see a little bit of my box over there. It's on the ground, the HTC Vive box. I got a Vive. I pre-ordered it. I didn't get it right away. I didn't get it the day everybody else did. I got it a little bit later in April. I was all about the Vive. I was talking smack about Oculus. You know, I was laughing at people with Oculus Rifts like, oh my God, dude, you've got a freaking Xbox controller. It's not even tracked. It's not even a tracked controller. I've got the legit VR. I've got my hand presence in VR. I've got these Vive Wands. They did deliver a motion controller on day one. And you know, when you first got the Vive, and when you first, like those of us that got a Vive back in 2016, back in April, May, June, when you first got a Vive and you got that wand in your hand, that shit felt next gen as F. I mean, I know I talk a lot of smack about the HTC Vive controller. It's big. It's kind of like, it's too damn big. It really is. It needs to be shrunk about 30%. If HTC did nothing else but take the Vive controller and put it in a shrinking machine, reduce it by 25%, that could be one of the smartest things they could ever do, because I think it's just too damn big. But when I had my Vive controller way back in 2016, I was holding it in my hand. I was like, man, this feels nice. This is a high-end piece of technology. They did deliver that motion controller on day one. Number 3, they delivered true room scale before anybody else, and their room scale is just a little bit more legit. Okay, you can do room scale with your Oculus Rift. You got to either try to take your 2 sensors and try to do the diagonal thing, or you go to 3 sensors, or you go to 4 sensors. You will have USB wires running all over the damn place, but you can kind of do a room scale thing. But the problem is, like, one of the advantages of HTC is they've been room scale from the very beginning. There's a lot of Oculus stuff that was designed to be front facing. Like, part of the reason Serious Sam the Last Hope, you stand here and it's a front-facing experience, and there's a number of VR games that are like this, and it was done very specifically because of the Oculus Rift, because you only get 2 sensors with the Oculus Rift, so a lot of people assume that room scale is not part of the equation, but the Vive scenario has delivered room scale from the very beginning, and it's always had room scale, and it's legit, true room scale. You got games like Unseen Diplomacy that were out right at the very beginning, legitimate room scale there. Okay, number 4, they're the first of the big 3 companies to deliver an improved HMD. And yeah, I know PlayStation VR has the version 2, but I'm not counting that because all they did was make they improved the cables. They definitely improved the cables of PlayStation VR 2, but they didn't really do anything to the headset, like in any real significant way. And HTC, as much as we bag on them, they are the first of the big companies to actually follow up and introduce a new and improved headset. Although it may be marginal improvements, they're the first to do that. So let's give them a little bit of credit for that. Number 5, they're the first to bring a legitimate subscription type plan to VR with Viveport. Now, we talk a lot of smack about Viveport, but the idea, the concept behind Viveport is actually a damn good idea. It's a fine idea. They basically have kind of gone down the Netflix route. You pay a monthly fee. You get to pick a couple of games as the games that you're holding on to. It's a great idea. I think Viveport is a wonderful idea. They're the first to bring this kind of plan to VR. Let's give them a little bit of love for that. Number 6, what else have they done right? VR seems to be their primary focus, their singular focus. The cell phone industry, they're not doing too well there, and they're kind of backing away from that. And at a certain point, they might be a VR, AR company, and that's it. They might just get completely out of the phone market. And the good part of that is, you know, they're not distracted. Facebook is thinking about a million other things besides VR and AR. PlayStation, VR is a tiny little niche of a niche for Sony. It's a concern for them. They're thinking about it, but it's not their singular focus. For Vive, VR is kind of their singular focus. So that's pretty sweet. And number 7, and this one is not to be discounted. This is a valuable, valuable thing. And HTC has kind of accidentally fallen into this. But whatever the case may be, they're here. They have created an awareness for the name brand, the HTC Vive, the Vive. Like, people know about the Vive, and they know about it in relationship to being the premier VR hardware. This is the high-end VR hardware, the HTC Vive. Whether or not it really is or not, it doesn't matter. Perception is everything. And if you talk to your average flat gamer out there that is not really interested in VR, they think of the Vive as like high-end. Like the Vive is like premier. Like Oculus Rift is like, oh, okay, you got a Vive? Whoa, you really stepped up, man. You got the full-on room scale, brah. You know, so Vive is kind of the premier deal. And they've made that. They've created that. Okay, so these are the things that they've done right. All right, so I'm going to throw a trailer on real quick, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to look and see what people are talking about in chat. And why don't we go ahead and throw on the original old school trailer? You know, this is the trailer from back in the day, opening up the Vive equipment. This is back when everything was shiny and new and we were all happy and everybody was loving everything. And oh yeah, let's go ahead and set our lighthouse on top of a bunch of books. You know, so this is how they're getting it all ready. But this was a really well done commercial, a really well done introduction to VR. This was back in the good old days of 2016. You know, they got this green screen room. They got, God, what's his name now? I can't even remember this guy's name here that's kind of introducing it. He's not there anymore, but he was kind of their front-facing guy for VR. Chet Falazek, right? Chet Falazek, yeah. Chet Falazek, you know, they got the guy in the background doing kind of, what do we call it? Blah, 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 blah. Oh, man, I'm completely brain fart. Photogrammetry. You know, they're doing the photogrammetry there. They're kind of filming it all. I mean, they did a really good job with this commercial. Really good job of introducing the entire Steam VR, HTC Vive kind of concept. These were the good old days. But let me go ahead and check out and see what people are talking about in chat. So DLG27 threw a Moss code in there. PlayStation VR North American code. Somebody has snagged that in a New York Minute and they got it up and running on their PSVR. Chris says, I still love the Vive controllers in games where you hold rackets, spears, swords, etc. It feels great. You know, the one thing I will say about the Vive controller, I like To the Top better on the Vive. I really do. To the Top is probably one of my 50 favorite VR games, period, and it plays better on the Vive. There's something about the triggers of the Vive and the Vive controllers, it works better in To the Top. So I'm not going to deny it. I'm sure there's certain reasons where you actually might prefer the Vive controller over some of these other controllers. Let's see what other people are saying here. So Catherine Chanson, Vive was my first VR headset, will always be the first. What a magic period, a magical period to be sure. Early 2016, it was a special time. I remember the Vive subreddit that very first year, especially like April and May and June. It was such a wonderful time back then. It really was super cool. Continuing to look back here, I mean, we're continuing to look at some of the comments here in chat. Crunchy says, I think power sockets are more readily available than USB ports, because some people are talking about, like T-Dub says, yeah, you know, you do have these lighthouses and it's a great idea, but you need to have power sockets all around your room if you're going to do that. Yeah, it is a concern. Like, you know, I had a lighthouse right there and I had to kind of run the power to the right thing. I had a lighthouse over there. Luckily, I had a power socket that was right down below. But yeah, you got to run a wire to your power socket. It is a bit annoying. There's no question about it. So I'm just scrolling down here. Let's see. To the Top is in my top 10 for sure. That is person. And I do believe it does play better on the HTC Vive. There's something about the Vive controller. Pretty fly for a VR guy. Says Vive's early 2016 with the lab. The lab was something people just kept doing, like Nathy. Yeah, the lab was huge way back in the days. I mean, do you guys remember? I still have these wonderful nostalgic memories. The Vive was my first VR headset. I never even tried cardboard. I never tried Gear VR. I didn't know nothing about VR. And I was kind of one of these people. Do you know, before I ever got VR, like, here's a little nostalgic fun fact here. Before I ever got VR, I was actually worried. Like, I was legitimately worried that VR might be too powerful. Like, it might be too real. And there's a lot of people out there that believe that. Like, when you first put people in VR, like, how are you going to get good tracking when your lighthouse is way up on that ledge and it's pointing directly that way? I mean, you at least need to put a couple quarters under your lighthouse and tilt it downwards a little bit. I'm just watching this video here. But I was legitimately worried about going into VR. I was like, man, is it going to be too good? Is it going to freak me out? Am I going to, like, get too scared? Like, what's going to happen here? I was actually nervous about VR. And I'll never forget the very first day I got into VR. The first thing I experienced was the Steam VR setup. You know, when you get in Steam VR setup, and you're in this all-white room, and you have those little guys walking around, and there's like sofas and tables, and it's like, and tables are like flipping over and disappearing into the ground and all of that. I got into that. I had my headphones turned way the hell up. I was in there looking around and everything. Things were going moving all around. I was like, oh my God, this is freaking incredible. This is amazing. I can't believe this. You know, blowing the balloons and hitting the balloons and just being in the Steam VR setup, playing the Blue for the first time. I remember that, seeing the whale for the first time, seeing the fish swim around. It really was a magical experience. I loved my HTC Vive in those early days. I still have a lot of nostalgic memories of it. And, you know, at the very end of this, I am going to mention a couple of things that I miss about my HTC Vive. Like, I don't have a Vive now, haven't had a Vive for a while, sold it off, not because I'm hating the Vive. One of my lighthouses was broken, and I just decided because I had a Rift and a Vive simultaneously. One of my lighthouses got broken, and I was just like, well, I can survive with just the Rift, I guess. And I thought I was going to upgrade to a new LG VR headset with knuckles and all of that, and I guess I was about a year too early, so it didn't work out for me. But yeah, the Vive is still a magical thing, you know, just going back to the memories. Okay, so that's all the great stuff. Now let's get into the negativity. Yeah, buddy, it is time for some negativity, so let's go ahead and switch. We know what the Vive, what HTC and Valve has done right. What have they done wrong? Okay, so let's switch it up. Oh, whoops, that's the wrong one. My apologies there. Oopsie doopsie. What has Vive done wrong? Did I name this the right way? Oh, man, I think I screwed up. Oh, no. Okay, damn it. Hold on a second. I will figure this out. Oh, man. Okay, let's see. I'm going to go here. Big mistake. What has Vive done wrong? Okay, here's our first major mistake. Let's see. Now, I got to find the... I accidentally labeled the wrong thing and then copied it twice. So I'm looking for what HTC has done wrong. Okay, here it is. Okay, this is another version. My bad. Sorry. Ignore the fact that you saw what you saw. You did not see what you saw. Okay, so here it is. What has HTC Vive done wrong? And number one with a frickin' bullet, worst customer service many of us have ever experienced in our lives. Now, here's the thing, guys. This is mostly an American thing. This is mostly a USA thing, because I do know people that live in Europe, people that live in England and other countries in Europe. They have like a different customer support. Yeah, what has Ant done wrong? Yeah, I did wrong back there. My apologies, major mistake. But here we go. Now we're back in the mix here. And if you live in the United States and you have ever had to deal with HTC customer service, they are making a name for themselves, ladies and gentlemen. They are really making a name for themselves, but it's the wrong kind of a name. They are getting themselves up in the mix with Comcast and Electronic Arts as three of the worst companies in the United States. You got Comcast, Electronic Arts, and HTC Vive. Yeah, those are the three worst companies in the United States. And part of this is they have some of the worst customer service we've ever seen. I have personal stories myself of absolute nightmares with HTC's customer service. And I've forgiven them over the years. You know, I had a problem with my 3-in-1 cable. I didn't have VR for like a month and a half. It was horrible because I was waiting for my 3-in-1 cable to be repaired. And then I had a problem with my Lighthouse. I've had problems with my Vive controllers. I had to buy a brand new Vive controller. You think when you buy this stuff and you have like a 1-year warranty, you think you'd be covered, but you would think wrong. You're wrong. And then the other thing about the customer service is, like, you have a problem with something, you send it to HTC and they'll tell you all these wonderful things. Like, they'll be like, oh yeah, it's a priority for us. We've now put you on top of our priority list. But the thing is, if you just forget about it, months and months and months will expire and they've done nothing. Your Lighthouse is still sitting there. Your controller is sitting there. It's broken and it's just sitting there. It's like the only time that they are actually going to do legit customer service is if you are constantly hounding their ass on a daily basis, and you make it to the point where they just want to get rid of you, where they're tired of talking to you, they're tired of dealing with you. That's the only time they're actually going to do what they're supposed to do. The worst customer service I've ever seen in like consumer electronics. I don't think I've ever seen worse customer service. It is absolutely awful. Okay, number 2, they've stuck with the same controller design all this entire time. We're thinking about our nostalgic memories of April and May and June of 2016, back in the good old Vive days when everything was good in the Vive. Well, that's a long time ago, and it's the same freaking controller. That controller seemed next gen way back then. It doesn't seem next gen now. It is too darn big. It's too big. It's too hefty. Like, it needs to be a hell of a lot smaller. Have you guys seen that one video where this lady's like playing Beat Saber and the little kid walks by? And I don't know if this video was like engineered to be viral or whatever, because it almost seems too good to be true. Like, I don't know if that kid and the lady are actually in the same location at the same time. But I know you guys have seen the video I'm talking about. This lady's playing Beat Saber. Big giant ass HTC wands are going up and down like freaking like pendulums, just going up and down. The little kid walks by and barely avoids getting brain damage. He barely avoids brain damage, like permanent brain damage for the little kid that walks by, because the controllers are so damn huge. You can kill somebody with one of those damn controllers. Like, I cannot believe that they haven't redesigned this controller in 3 years. It's the same freaking wand. They even put the new blue paint on it or whatever. You know, for HTC Vive Pro, they went as far as changing the paint. They even have that McLaren version where they got the orange button. They put an orange button on it, but they won't put it in the shrink ray. They won't put it in the shrinking machine and miniaturize it just a little bit, or like maybe add a thumbstick on it. The touchpad, let's face it, The touchpad's a bad idea. I know it's a whole Valve thing. And, you know, Valve had their Steam controller and they thought they were really clever with having this touchpad. Oh, yeah, it'll work just great. No, you know what? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Thumbsticks are proven commodities. They work well. I can't believe they've stuck with the same old controller this entire time. Okay, number 3, they're charging exorbitant prices for any replacement item. I've suffered this myself. Like my controller got broke. It wasn't working right. I probably could have fixed it myself, but I didn't. Oh well. I did sell my broken controller, slightly broken controller, for like $70. So I guess the fact that they charge so much freaking money for the brand new stuff, you are able to sell your used Vive stuff for quite a bit of money. But the reason why you can sell your used Vive stuff for so much money is because the replacement prices are out of this world. They're really screwing over their consumers. They're just digging into them, man. They're taking so much advantage over the fact that you can't go anywhere else. If you need a replacement Vive controller, that's the only place you can go. If you need another Lighthouse, it's the only place you can go. They charge crazy ass prices for these things. That's the reason I got rid of my Vive. If a Lighthouse costs like $79.99, like it probably should have cost, I would have just bought another one. But buying another Lighthouse is like taking another mortgage out of my house. I'm not going to do it. So I said, F it, and I decided to part everything out. I got rid of every little HTC Vive item I got. And you know what? I actually got good money for it. That's the funny thing about it. You know that your HTC Vive is way more valuable if you part each individual part out. The link box, the 3-in-1 cable, your Lighthouse, you sell your Lighthouses individually, sell your controllers individually. You can practically buy 2 HTC Vive packages for that same kind of cost if you part everything out. But that's an example of how they price things way too high. They're really trying to juice their own consumers. Okay, number 4, they introduced a very mild upgrade with the Vive Pro. The Vive Pro is like HTC Vive 1.3.7. It's not even a 1.5. It's such a mild upgrade. And then the other thing is, it's ugly as all get out. Those things that stick out on the side, it's like everybody has a ponytail. I'm serious, man. If you look at the videos and the pictures of people wearing HTC Vive Pros, it's not a good look. It looks kind of dorky. It looks kind of dumb. The things that pop out that have the headphones, those things are popping way the hell out here, and it makes it look like, it does not look good. There's a few people out there that actually thought the Vive Pro looks kind of cool and looks kind of like futuristic and stuff. No, it looks bad. Like, it does not look good. Every time I see it, it just doesn't look good to me. And it was a mild upgrade, an incredibly mild upgrade. There's some people, honestly, that actually prefer a regular Vive over the Vive Pro for certain reasons, certain issues. So a very mild upgrade. Okay, number 5, they still haven't bundled the deluxe audio strap in with the standard Vive package. Now, I understand, like, okay, they came out with the deluxe audio strap. They want to juice their consumers. I understand that. But they've been juicing them for long enough. Like, pack it in the original Vive. Like, redesign the original Vive. As years go by, you're supposed to kind of like update your design a little bit. Like PlayStation VR, we got version 2. They made some minor adjustments there. The Oculus Rift used to come with an Xbox controller. Now it doesn't. It comes with the touch controllers. Like, update your package eventually. Don't just send the original package over and over and over again. Yes, I know they did reduce the weight by like 22%. That was one good thing. But they never bundled in the deluxe audio strap. I thought that was kind of crazy. Okay, number 6, Viveport. Now, this has improved the way I understand it. Viveport has improved. It doesn't seem to cause as many problems as it used to cause, But most people, when we think of Viveport, we think of the blue screen of death. We've heard so many horror stories out there about Viveport, so some of us have been so traumatized, we're triggered. Every time we hear the word Viveport, we're triggered. And we don't want to put Viveport on our computers because we're scared to death. We've heard so many horror stories, we just don't want to do it. But the good news is Viveport apparently has improved quite a bit and it isn't killing computers as much as it used to do. Okay, number 7, a true 2.0 Vive seems to be nowhere in sight. Like, what's the deal, HTC? One of the things that we were saying was good about you is VR is your singular focus. It appears to be your singular focus. Well, if VR is your singular focus, where the hell is Vive 2.0? Where's the teases? Are you even working on a Vive 2.0? We don't know. Like, you should kind of be talking about this a little bit. Like, distract us from Pimax. Where's the true Vive 2.0? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and throw another miscellaneous Vive-related trailer on the screen. And as I do that, I will go ahead and look at chat and see what people are talking about in relationship to to all the negative things that are going on here. Oops, I got to resize this. So now we are screwed. I am in a different resolution video here. Yeah, that's the Vive Pro, bro. The Vive Pro is so awesome, man. Okay, look at the big ponytail, like the big ponytails, really, right? Or what do you call it? It reminds me of, what's that chick in Suicide Squad? Everybody looks like they're in the Suicide Squad. If you're wearing an HTC Vive Pro, these things that are sticking out, or it's like flappy dog ears on the side. It's not a good look. I'm sorry. And some people actually thought the Vive was a cool looking thing. I don't know what they're thinking about. I mean, I think the rest of the design is cool, but these big knobs that are sticking out on the side, like, come on, do a better job. Apple would never be caught dead with something that looked like that. Apple is like, look at these big things sticking out of the side of it. That is just a bad design right there, folks. Okay, let me go ahead and go into the chat. Let's see what's going on. Of course, now that I went negative, I'm sure there's a lot of comments here. Les Marwick says, HTC is the only company ever that I was too scared to send a faulty product back to and went the fix-it-yourself route like many others, even though it was still under warranty. And Les, you made a smart-ass decision because honestly, if something goes bad with your HTC Vive, just buy a brand new one. If it's a controller and it's broken, if it's a lighthouse and it's just buy a brand new one. Save yourself the headache. Buy a brand new one and then either sell yours as a used thing that needs to be repaired. You'll still get some pretty decent money for it. Just go ahead and do that. It's the better way to go. Do not try to use their customer service and actually think you're going to get something repaired and sent back to you within a recent time frame. Now, I know a lot of my audience, you guys are in Europe, you're in the UK, and customer service there is completely different. So this is mostly a USA thing. I gotta admit that. Pretty fly for a VR guy, says analog fanboyism is real. Okay, and Chris says the Vive Pro was too expensive for what you got if you already had an OG Vive. Isn't that the truth? Absolutely, isn't that the truth? R Gambo, $165 for a lighthouse. You know what? The good news now is you can get a lighthouse on Amazon, right? It's not a... Is it like, I thought it was like $129 now. I can't remember, but I know you could get a lighthouse on Amazon. Sloth Monkey says, I want thumbsticks. I am currently also without rumble on one of my wands. No way will I pay the insane price HTC is asking. Redonkulous. Okay, Nick Oppose. My second Vive controller broke before Christmas. Just got my new one. Pretty fly for a VR guy. Ha ha ha. I knew that Anthony's later Vive experience that this episode may be more of a rant than anything. Yeah, and you know what? I don't want to come off as a Vive hater. I'm not a Vive hater. I pre-ordered this thing before it ever came out. I was all about the Vive. I had a podcast called the frickin' Vivecast, man. We had 10 episodes. Gary, Reckoner VR was a special guest on the 10th episode, and then that led to VR Roundtable, and we decided to do VR Roundtable. But I had a podcast called the Vivecast. I'm not a Vive hater. I'm being completely honest about all of this. And at the very end, I will tell you there's a couple advantages that the Vive has over everything else, still to this day, in my opinion. Okay, let's see here. Still scrolling through some of these comments. VR Gamer says, much as I think the Vive has its flaws, I still like it. For some games, it's great, especially room scale. Pigtails. Yeah, that was Pigtails. You know, when you do a live show, you will have words in your head and you'll just have a brain fart. Pigtails. That's exactly what I was thinking about. Suicide Squad. What's her name? The girl that's in the Suicide Squad. The pigtails. Everybody looks like they have pigtails when you're wearing a Vive Pro. Pretty fly for a VR guy. I think spec-wise, the Vive is the best headset, as I keep asking who else offers 3K plus wireless. No other company. Personally, it's different, of course. Let's see. Edna O'Connor says, everyone looks stupid in VR. Who cares what it looks like once it is comfortable? True, but it looks better in pictures. Like the pigtail thing, this is a personal thing. It's a personal problem of mine. I'm just a little bit like, I don't know. I kind of like, it bothers me. It just bothers me. I don't know what to tell you about that. Edna O'Connor. So Fluke Rogie is commenting to Edna O'Connor. That's the truth. Funniest thing is how anyone new always feels self-conscious about putting it on for the first time, but that evaporates within seconds every single time. Yeah, I don't care. I don't care about the outer looks of the thing. But from a marketing, like in marketing materials and stuff, or when you're watching Let's Play vids, or when you're watching people run around with it, I don't know. Yeah, Harley Quinn. There it is. Harley Quinn, yeah. On the tip of my tongue, complete and utter brain fart. Everybody looks like Harley Quinn when they're wearing their Vive Pros. That's my opinion of that. In fact, let me throw in a different Vive trailer here where everybody has Vive Pros. Okay, so there's this trailer right here. Remember this trailer where you got like 7 dudes walking around? This trailer cracks me up. I don't know what it is about this trailer that cracks me up so much. But you got 7 dudes all walking around, standing around. They all look like Harley Quinn. They all got their pigtails on the side. Like, it's just a matter of how many inches. Like, how many inches outside of your headset do you need to go? Like, if they could only have reduced it by like 2 inches maybe, like, you know, it sticks out like 4 or 5 inches. Okay, just chop that in half, HTC. Is it that hard? It looks okay from the side, but when you see somebody head on, like, it just kind of looks dumb to me. I don't know, that looks dumb to me. Am I crazy? I must be crazy. I must be crazy. My apologies. Okay, Petter Oss says, the stiff prices and the bad solutions on the Vive Pro aren't exactly good selling points for the next-gen Vive. HTC's reputation as a company is at stake. You know, the good news, though, Petter Oss, I'm assuming it's Petter Oss. The good news, Petter Oss, is one of the benefits that I talked about the Vive is they're known as the premier company. And even like hardcore VR players, like us hardcore VR people, we know all the problems of the Vive. But you know what? Your average flat gamer doesn't know about any of this. They don't know that HTC is a god-awful customer service company. They don't know about all of the problems. They think the Vive is like a high-end thing. So they haven't really ruined their company's reputation. They have with the hardcore enthusiasts, but with everybody out there, they haven't really ruined it. If you go to a VR arcade, what do they have? They have Vives. You know, Vive is doing well in VR arcades. Yeah, pet her ass. No, I did not say that. I was trying to say Petter Oss, but I said Petter ass. My problem. I made a mistake there. So yeah, it's kind of funny, all this stuff here. All right, so here's what we're going to do. So let's go back to the thing where I accidentally revealed it early, And that is what HTC needs to do in the year of our Lord 2019. So I am going to have to resize this and get things back situated properly. Hold on one sec here. Okay, so here we go. What does HTC need to do in the year of our Lord 2019? And numero uno. You might think number one would be introduce a legit 2.0 Vive. No. Number one, they got to handle this customer service issue. They really do. And they know they have a problem. Like Dan O'Brien, like, what's his name? James Bond, Alvin Wang Graylin, they all know they've got a problem. They know they have a problem, but they haven't done anything about it. Now, one time I actually did talk to an HTC Vive representative, like somebody that works up in Seattle in their HTC headquarters, which is up in the Seattle area. I actually talked to somebody there about their customer service problem. This was a long, long time ago, and they're like, yeah, we know. We're about to change to a new company. We're going to have a different company handle our support. But it's never changed. It's never changed. What they need to do, see, the problem is they're not willing to spend the money. They're not willing to spend the money and back their product in the right kind of a way. And so I don't think number one is ever going to happen, but it's what they need to do. They need to reorganize their customer service. They need to hire an outside company to take over and handle this. The problem is, if they hired a legitimate company that really was all about customer service, this company would constantly be sending people new controllers and new lighthouses, and HTC would be like, what's going on here? We're losing millions of dollars ever since we hired this better customer service company. Now we're bleeding millions of dollars. Maybe they need to do a better manufacturing job. I don't know. What is the root cause here? But they got to fix their customer service problem. Like, if they're ever going to go mainstream, they got to fix their customer service problem. Luckily, only the hardcore enthusiasts know how horrible it is, so they're okay. But if they ever go mainstream, they got to fix it, or everybody's going to know their customer service is horrible. Okay, number two, they need to introduce a legit 2.0 HTC Vive system with vastly improved controllers. Now, a lot of us have been wondering, is this just a Knuckles Vive Lighthouse 2.0 kind of situation? Has HTC basically had handcuffs on? Are they handcuffed by Valve? Because Valve has control of Knuckles, Valve has control of the Lighthouses 2.0, and Valve has told HTC, hey, yeah, you'll get Lighthouses 2.0, you'll get Knuckles, you'll be able to pack it all together in a bundle. Everything is all good, but you gotta wait for our go-ahead. You gotta wait for us to officially say, okay, you know what? Knuckles is completely done. It's not a prototype anymore. It is completely finalized. The Lighthouses 2.0 are completely done. It's completely finalized. Now you have the go-ahead to create a new bundle that has Lighthouses 2.0. It has the Knuckles and maybe a completely redesigned 2.0, legitimately 2.0 HTC Vive system. But maybe HTC is like, they're waiting, they're twiddling their thumbs, and they're like, man, when is this going to happen? When is Valve going to finally give us the go-ahead? This could be the legit reason. They may have been waiting around for a year. Maybe a year ago, HTC would have been ready to come out with a brand new headset with Lighthouses 2.0, Knuckles, and all of that. But Valve is dragging their heels. It's Valve time. HTC is being exposed to Valve time, and so they're kind of screwed. You know, they're kind of between a rock and a hard place. Maybe that's part of the problem. I'm not saying it's all an HTC Vive problem. They hooked up with Valve, and part of the downsides of hooking up with Valve is Valve time. I bet you any amount of money, like Alvin Wang Graylin, Dan O'Brien, like everybody that is in HTC's management never understood Valve time prior to now, but now they do. They understand Valve time in a major way. They get all the memes now. Okay, number three, offer up accessories at fair prices. Now, I'm not saying you need to offer up a replacement controller for 65 bucks. Hell, a replacement controller could be $99, and I would consider that fair. A little bit, it would be a little bit on the high end, but basically fair. But like $129 for a new controller, get the F out of Dodge, HTC. Like, offer up your accessories at relatively fair prices. I'm not saying you can juice a little bit, juice your customers a little bit, but don't juice them to a redonkulous degree. Okay, number 4, continue to improve their Viveport software. Change the perception of Viveport. Make it no longer a word that triggers us and sends us into shudders of fear. Improve the Viveport software. Okay, number 5, take full advantage of the situation they find themselves in. Dude, HTC is in a beautiful situation. They've been handed the keys to the palace. They hooked up with Valve. Everything is going great for them. They're considered this high-end VR thing. You know, if you talk to your average flat gamer that doesn't know that much, they think Vive is like a high-end brand. You know, Vive is the high-end VR brand. They're in a wonderful situation, but they're not taking advantage of it. Please, HTC, for the love of God, take advantage of the wonderful situation you find yourself in. Vive is people know the name Vive. That's a miracle. That's an absolute miracle. People know the name Vive. They're a legit name brand. Take advantage of that. Okay, that is what HTC needs to do in the year 2019. And God damn it, I need to take a sip of water. So I'm going to take a quick sip of water real quick. Ah, that was very necessary. Okay, let's go on to our next one. We're already like an hour in practically, so I'm a little bit behind the cue ball here. Okay, so the next one is, what are the keys to a next generation Vive HMD? And before we get started here, guys, I want to say, look, I spent like 10 minutes coming up with some quick stuff here. This is not Sweeviver or Sebastian breaking down what the keys are to a next generation Vive HMD. I haven't analyzed everything here, so this is just a fun show, so please understand. Okay, Nintendo, please understand. Okay, number 1, dramatically improved controllers. Okay, it's gotta happen. Imagine if HTC legitimately came out with a next-gen headset, like a truly next-gen headset, and still had those big-ass wands. Like, imagine that. That would be freaking crazy. We're assuming the knuckles will be there, but whatever the case may be, dramatically improve your controllers. Put thumbsticks on them, make them a hell of a lot smaller, make them much more ergonomical. Okay, number 2, a higher bump in resolution. Now, I'm not a hardware guy, and I don't like get caught up in all of these like virtual link, and if they go to this level, well, that has to have a certain bandwidth. The HDMI signal cannot process the bandwidth, so I don't know where the next higher bump is. Like, where do we go? Okay, so we know you got the Samsung Odyssey, you got the Samsung Odyssey Plus, you got the HTC Vive Pro. They've all gone to this higher bump in resolution. It's almost like a standard. Where's the next jump? Because that's where we need to go. Wherever the next jump is. It may require a new HDMI 2.7. It may require virtual link or whatever, but go to the next bump in resolution. Even if you're not going to like 4K each eye or whatever it is, jump up to the next bump. Number 3, improved optics with less God rays. Now I would say ditch Fresnel lenses. But I can't actually say ditch Fresnel lenses because I don't know that there's a better option out there. I know there's other lenses besides Fresnel, but I know there's some downsides. And then I think, aren't there some improved Fresnel lenses that are not too bad? So maybe go down that road. Okay, number 4, lean in. Lean in. Lean into pass-through AR. This is the one good thing I think they did with the HTC Vive Pro. They put those 2 little cameras up on there, and they've showed off some interesting AR type stuff very briefly. but they have shown some interesting AR pass-through type of stuff. But lean into it with your next headset. Really lean in to pass-through AR because nobody else is doing it. So why not take the lead? I think pass-through AR in VR headsets is going to be huge. We're going to be able to have the equivalent of having a Magic Leap 1 by paying a hell of a lot less money. We're going to be able to do pass-through AR. It's going to be awesome. There's going to be a lot of cool things we're going to be able to do with that. Lean into it. You've already started to kind of lean into it. Go all the way. Fall over. Trip over yourself. Lean into pass-through AR. Number 5, aesthetically pleasing design with great ergonomics. And this is where we're talking about Harley Quinn. We're talking about those pigtails. You got to make it look halfway decent. I'm not saying it needs to be Apple, an Apple VR head. Like, what would an Apple VR headset even look like? I don't even know. But please make it a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. Okay, number 6, I know this is a stretch. Keep the price within reason. What I'm talking about here is like, get off of this idea of having an HMD for like $1,400, $2,000. Come on, let's keep the price within reason. Look, the Oculus Rift is $399. You could be double that. You could double the price of the Rift. You could have a $799 headset. That's within reason. But if you start getting into the thousands of dollars, what are you doing? Keep the price within reason. Number 7, wireless receiver integration. Okay, this I'm wishing upon a star with this one here, but they do have the official HTC wireless thing. So, gee, I don't know, peanut butter and chocolate. Like I'm holding a chocolate bar. Here's a peanut butter jar. Oops, I accidentally dipped my chocolate bar into the peanut butter. Damn, they taste really good together. Okay, so HTC, you got your own little wireless antenna. Now we got pigtails and we got bug antennas at the same time. Maybe they could, like, in their factory, you know, oh, whoops, the wireless technology accidentally fell into our HTC Vive 2.0 headset, and now we've integrated it, baby. Let the dream live. Full-on integration of wireless. That would be sweet. I don't expect it. It's not going to happen, but it would have been sweet. Okay, number 8, eye tracking and foveated rendering. Yeah, you know, I'm throwing that in there. Why not? Why not eye tracking? Why not foveated rendering? So these are some of the keys to a next generation Vive. Again, look, I'm not Martin, I'm not Sweeviver, I'm not Sebastian, I'm not Voodoo DE, I'm not any of these guys. Hardware is not really my focus. I like the games more than the hardware. I do like the industry side of the thing. Like, I get into the business side of the thing, but I'm not really a hardware junkie. So you probably want to go to all of them for like the really hardcore hardware type stuff. But these are some keys that I've thought about here. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this crap off of the screen. Let me see if I can find another video that I could throw on real quick. Well, we could throw on the wireless Vive adapter video. We were just talking about wireless VR a second ago there. And so I did not make a special breakdown for this, but and there you go. There's pigtails combined with bug antenna all in one. Pigtails and bug antenna all together. But one thing I did want to mention is, what do I miss about my HTC Vive? I don't have an HTC Vive anymore. I still have the box. I don't have an HTC Vive. What do I miss about it? And there are a couple of things that I do miss about it. First of all, I miss not having to worry about any goddamn USB sensors. If I had a Vive and I didn't have a Rift, I wouldn't have to get an Initech USB card. That's a bonus. That's a definite bonus. The other thing I miss is if you have a regular HTC Vive, the original HTC Vive, you can take off that stock face gasket, all right? And you can get yourself some really thin foam. I'm talking like 3 millimeters. I'm talking super duper thin foam. Create your own face gasket. That's what I did. When I had my HTC Vive, I created a super thin face gasket. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlebots, I would take my HTC Vive and I would get all up in that puppy. I mean, I was up in there. Let me tell you, my eyeballs were millimeters away from the lenses, millimeters away. And that is one of the most beautiful things about the HTC Vive. The original design, you can get up in there. And when you get up in there, you're getting a bigger field of view. I'm telling you, it was night and day. It was the biggest improvement I could have possibly made. Now, there may have been some like artifacts and stuff, and I might be able to see the concentric circles a hell of a lot better. And I'm sure there were some other issues. Maybe God rays are increased. Like if you talk to Chet Falazek and you say, dude, I'm taking off my face gask and I'm just putting this on there, hard plastic and all, baby. I am getting up in there. He would advise you against it because he would say, well, you know what? It's not designed to be used like that. There's going to be some downsides with that. But let me tell you, folks, if you want the biggest upgrade you could ever possibly get, just do this. If you own an HTC Vive, just try this just as an experiment. Take your face gasket completely off. Just have the hard plastic there with the Velcro and put it on your face just for like 5 minutes. Just play Fallout 4 VR for 5 minutes with your headset like that. You'll be like, oh my God, I've entered a new world. There's 20% more FOV all of a sudden. Gee, how interesting is this? Yes. Make your own face gasket. I miss that more than anything, man. I was getting like 125 degree field. I mean, I don't know what it was, but I'm telling you, it seemed so significantly better. It was a night and day difference because my son, right? So I had a Vive headset in here and I had a super, super thin face gasket. I mean, as thin as you could possibly imagine. Every once in a while, my youngest son would come in here. He'd want to play some VR. And he'd be like, oh, Dad, can you switch out? I want the real retail thing. And so I'd put the retail one back on. And then he would play a bunch of VR for a while. Then he would leave. And then now it's time for me to play VR. But I would forget about the fact that I put the retail one back on. And then I'd put the Vive on and be like, oh, shit, what's wrong with it? What happened to my FOV? My FOV just went like this. What the hell happened? And then I remember, oh, yeah. I switched out the gasket. Let me get my proper gasket on there. Oh, now I'm inside a VR world like never before. I'm telling you, it was a night and day difference. It was incredible. Yes, my eyelashes were definitely rubbing up on the screen, all of that sort of stuff. But you want to, like if you want 120 degrees FOV, you can get it. It might not be ideal, but you can get it absolutely. Okay, so that pretty much does it for the Vive show. Yes, that's pretty much it. Okay, you know, we've been going for an hour here. I would normally show like the best upcoming Vive games and like what are the best Vive games, but it's pretty much the same as the Rift, just minus the exclusives. So we're going to go ahead and skip that. And I got to bounce out of here. So let me go ahead and get my little outro logo onto the screen. Alrighty, guys, that is going to go ahead and do it. Now, before we leave today, once again, a couple of reminders. Number one, subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. Like, what are you doing? Subscribe to the channel. Number two, like this video. Like this video. It is important. Okay, number three, vote. Rock the vote. Shock the vote. Vote on our Game of the Year, People's Choice Awards. Hop over to our Discord. It is a beautiful thing. So do all of those things and we're all gizned in the hisned. Okay, now, finally, before I get out of here, tomorrow's show, the show of the year, you know, our Game of the Year awards, we're going to start at 10 a.m. Pacific time. We're going to be 1 hour earlier and it's probably going to last about 2 hours. I'm figuring it's about a 2-hour show. We are going to be giving away a ton of game keys. Do you know Stone Punk Studios hooked me up with like 5 Primordian codes and also some other codes for another game that guy made. So we got all kinds of game codes. We've got MainFan is giving away like 9 codes to Slightly Heroes. We've got a couple different codes of Project Cars 2. Fluke and Phil Yarn have both provided a Project Cars 2 code. We got a ukulele code that that Fluke has provided. We've got all kinds of stuff. You know, we got so much. No, Pretty Fly for a VR guy says, someone downvoted. Get me my pitchfork and torch. No, you know what? That is an HTC Vive fanboy that doesn't like the fact that I went on for 25 minutes talking about the pigtails, talking about Harley Quinn. That's where that downvote comes in. It's all good. I have no problems with it. But basically, yeah, we're giving away a whole ton of games. We're probably going to give away like well over 20 VR games tomorrow on this episode. So definitely tune in. Tell a friend all about the show and all of that. So I will see everybody tomorrow at 10 a.m. I'm looking forward to it. See you guys then. Later. Later.